what makes a slot machine habit-forming, or if not all-out addictive, is the fact that when you pull on a slot machine, there's this variable reward, right? What might I win? That's the variability. And we see the exact same psychology at work in all sorts of products. For example, with many things online, have you noticed that over the past few years, everything has a feed, right? There's this feed element in all sorts of products. Why is that? That didn't used to exist a few years ago, and yet today, everything has a feed. Well, if you think about it, what makes us scroll on a feed is the same exact psychology. It's scrolling and searching for that next reward, that next interesting bit of content is the exact same psychology that keeps us pulling on a slot machine. It's this search for a reward. Maybe the first thing's not that interesting, maybe the second's not that interesting, but maybe the third thing is interesting. And to find more, all I gotta do is keep swiping and swiping and swiping. Trigger is a cue to action. It tells us what to do next. And there are two types of triggers. There are external triggers and there are internal triggers. Now, external triggers we've all seen in our day-to-day lives. These are things like, a buy now button, or play this, or a friend telling you through word of mouth about something you should check out. External triggers. The information for what to do is in the trigger itself. Great. That's all obvious to us. We see these triggers every day, but what we don't think about enough, and what product makers covet the most, is creating an association with what's called an internal trigger. An internal trigger cues us to action and tells us what to do next, but the information for what do we do is not in the trigger itself, as is the case of the external trigger. The information for what do I do next is given to the user from their own memory, through an association in their brain. So for example, when I'm in a certain place, a certain situation, a certain routine, around certain people, and most frequently when we experience a certain emotion, that prompts me to action. That tells me what to do next. And what's interesting is that the research shows us that it's not just any emotion, that we are prompted to do habitual behaviors most frequently from negative emotions. So what we do when we're feeling bored or lonesome or indecisive or lost or fatigued, what we do when we feel these negative emotions prompts us to act with little or no conscious thought. Why? Because this brain that we all have is a pattern matching device. That's what this thing is great at. Figuring out, hey, what solves my problems reliably, time and time and time again. And once I figure out cause and effect of where I can scratch my itch, where I can solve my pain, that's what I'm gonna go to time and time again. So the ultimate goal of a habit-forming product is to no longer need those external triggers, the advertising or the spammy messages, right? That's how they start to create these associations. The ultimate goal is that we use our technologies, we use these products on our own, right? Facebook is not running television commercials, right? Why? Because their ultimate goal is to connect to an internal trigger, to create this association so that when you're feeling lonely or bored, you're checking Facebook with little or no conscious thought, right? That company would go out of business if they had to spend money on advertising to bring you back. Their business model wouldn't work. They have to form habits or they're dead. These hooks have these 4 basic steps. And so we see in all sorts of habit-forming products, both online and offline, we see these 4 basic steps of a trigger, an action, a reward, and an investment. And it's the same design pattern that we go through time and time again that changes our preferences, that creates our tastes, and forms these habits. Right. These triggers, these actions, rewards, and investments. So when you think about the products that are most engaging, that capture our attention, that hold on to our focus and won't let go, you'll find these hooks if you dig below the surface. One of the things that I think kind of surprises people, or that they recognize in themselves, is the power of these rewards. The closer you are to realizing you almost got rewarded, right, the more likely you are to keep playing. So that's called the near miss effect. That they found that folks who, if you blatantly lost, you had a certain level of motivation to play again. If you blatantly won, you had a certain level of motivation to play again. But if you were in the middle and you're like, oh, I almost got it. I got 2 cherries and 1 bar. I almost got it. Then you were the most likely to want to play again because you were close. And so we see this similar effect online, of course, and offline, frankly. It's not that habit-forming products are new or just confined to digital products. I mean, look, what makes spectator sports so interesting to watch? It's constantly near misses. Oh, my team almost got the goal. We almost got it, right? And there's this constant game of watching this little ball go back and forth across a field or across a court that is full of variability. That's what keeps us engaged.